everyone, I'm Jo Fry and this is my channel Jojo Fry Rocks, and today I'm going to be talking about this. So this is the guitar that I made when I was 16 years old. I made this for my GCSE design and technology project at school. So it's quite old now. I believe I made this in 1997. So you can figure out how old that is and how old I am. But it has really stood the test of time, and it's probably the achievement that I am most proud of in my life. I think I may have peaked a little bit too early. But this came about because I got my first electric guitar, which was a Fender Squire Strat, when I was 13, and I loved it. I'd been playing guitar probably since I was about 7. I think I got my first acoustic guitar, a kind of 3/4 size, really beautiful rosewood guitar for Christmas when I was 7 years old. I'd been asking my dad to teach me how to play. My dad had a guitar, and he kind of knew 3 chords, maybe 4, but that was kind of enough. He could play a couple of Beatles songs, a couple of Elvis songs, and I would see him and hear him playing, and I just really wanted to be able to do that. I really wanted him to teach me. So I can remember when I first got my guitar, and we would kind of sit down on a Sunday afternoon and look at these chord sheets, and they had obviously all the Beatles songs, and we'd pick out something, like Norwegian Wood, that has only about 2 chords, the easy chords like E minor, and I would sit there with my dad and try to play along, and it was really hard and really painful to start with. And I remember we would sit there afterwards soaking our fingers in a bowl of vinegar. I can't actually exactly remember why or what the logic behind that was. Something to do with hardening your tips of your fingers. I mean, mine are absolutely solid now, kind of, 30 odd years later. But anyway, I can't remember it doing anything helpful at the time. It just made you smell of vinegar. But yeah, that was where I started. And then by the time I was kind of 13, obviously I had my own kind of musical tastes by then, and was starting to get into rock music, mainly kind of Bon Jovi, Def Leppard, all those kind of 80s rock bands, Guns N' Roses. I absolutely loved rock at that time, so I wanted to get myself, the acoustic guitar wasn't good enough anymore. I really wanted to start playing electric guitar. So for that Christmas when I was 13, I got my Squire Strat, which was, I absolutely loved it, and just remember playing it all the time, driving my mum absolutely crazy, making a lot of noise, not really very good noise either. But yeah, I started to kind of teach myself a bit more. I started to buy Total Guitar magazine when I got my pocket money every month. It was expensive. It was like £15. That was the entirety of my pocket money. So I would buy Total Guitar, I think, which was obviously aimed more at middle-aged men, and would try to learn Eric Clapton licks. I did learn to play all of, I think, Tears in Heaven, not really the kind of stuff that I actually listened to, but a really good challenge, and something that was really great to learn how to play on my Squire Strat, which was really, really nice. It was maple neck, Olympic white, you know, almost like the kind of Hendrix style Strat, but not with the funky headstock or anything. Had a tremolo arm, which I never used. I didn't really know what to do with it, and when I tried, it just used to put the guitar out of tune, so I didn't bother with it. And so that was really, really great as a first guitar, and for a couple of years I was really into it, really happy with it. And then I started getting more into grunge. Obviously Nirvana came out, and I latched onto that straight away and decided that I couldn't play Smells Like Teen Spirit on my Squire Strat. It just didn't sound right. I really, really, really wanted the Kurt Cobain guitar. I wanted the Jag Stang. There was absolutely no way I was getting a Jag Stang. So by the time I was 16, or kind of 15, 16, and thinking about what I would do, I had to do technology. It was not an optional subject. Everybody else was kind of making a spice rack, the bathroom cabinet, the usual stuff, woodwork stuff. I didn't really want to do that. And I used to have a lot of conversations with my science teacher at school, actually. He was a big guitar guy. He'd really into guitars, and he'd made several guitars himself. And I kind of said to him, how difficult is it? You know, how hard is it to kind of make a guitar? Because I had these ideas about the kind of guitar that I wanted, and that I would not be able to afford to buy, or my parents would not be able to afford to buy for me. So the idea that I had was to use the school's facilities, the school's workshop, while I was there, while I had access to that. Obviously try to source some wood, try to source all the component parts and everything. And he said, yeah, it's you know, it can be done, basically. And I had kind of a year and a half maybe to do it. So he agreed to very, very kindly, Mr. Leonard, bless him, he very, very kindly agreed to help me. And I think he was quite excited about it as well. You know, he knew exactly what he was doing. He was really excited to hear my ideas. Although some of our conversations, you know, I remember having all these ideas, because I obviously I still have my guitar heroes like Slash, Richie Sambora. I was kind of obsessed a little bit as well by Richie Sambora's Strat that he had. It had kind of mother of pearl star inlays, and it had active circuitry. It had a preamp on board, because, you know, obviously one of the things about my Squire Strat was that I felt that single coil pickups they're not loud enough. They weren't powerful enough to help me make as much noise as I wanted to make. This was, you know, before the time when I knew anything about amps or about pedals or anything like that. I just thought that all the sound, all the tone, the power has to come from the guitar. I was young, I didn't know any better. And also I have to say, I really, really, really regret the fact that I no longer have this Squire Strat, but we'll come to that later. So anyway, so one of the things that I was obsessed with was this active circuitry idea. And because I said to Mr. Leonard, you know, then I can sound like Richie Sambora. And he said, no amount of, you know, active circuitry is going to make you sound like Richie Sambora. Just, you know, just so you know. don't be disappointed if you build that in and you don't sound like Richie Sambora. I thought, okay, you know, point taken. So decided to leave that out in the end. But then when I started kind of researching into the types of guitars that the guitarist that I loved played, obviously Slash's Les Paul, I kind of, well, actually he initially played an Epiphone, but you know, the famous one is obviously his Gibson Les Paul. The Les Paul wasn't really a guitar that I was very interested in, other than the fact that obviously the humbuckers, pickups were more, I understood that they were more powerful than single coil pickups. And also the fact that, you know, the wood that the guitar was made from kind of contributed to the tone and the sustain that you could get from the guitar, along with many other factors. But that was kind of one thing that I sort of took on board when I was designing the guitar that I wanted to make. So I decided it would be made out of solid mahogany, a solid piece of mahogany. I hadn't really thought about weight in any real way at all. So this is an incredibly heavy thing. But I made the body out of one piece of solid mahogany. I also made the neck from the same mahogany. This was because I managed to get these two pieces, really beautiful pieces of mahogany, from a boatyard for free. So I didn't have to pay for the main parts of the guitar. Yeah, my friends, it was one of my friends' grandfathers actually owned a boatyard, and I went down there and I told him what I was doing. You know, somebody I'd known since I was a kid, since I was really young, and he was lovely. You know, he was absolutely wonderful guy. And I asked him, you know, I said, do you have any offcuts? Do you have anything that you know, I might be able to use? I gave him the rough dimensions that I needed, and he just kind of pointed and over to kind of where all the offcuts were, and he said, sure, you know, help yourself, take whatever you want. And I said, do you want me to give you anything for it? And he said, no, just make a good job of it. So, you know, I was then, you know, I felt super obliged to get this right. You know, obviously I had to do it for my coursework and for my exams and stuff. I also wanted to do it for myself, to have a great instrument that I had designed for myself. But that did add a little bit of obligation, I suppose, and you know, I wanted to do him proud as well. So I put so much kind of care and attention, particularly into the woodwork here. So I was able to use, as I say, all the school kind of band saws and routers and all that kind of stuff, under supervision, obviously. And it was really funny because my technology teacher refused to help me because he did not think that this was a suitable project, and he wouldn't help me out in the workshops at all. And obviously my science teacher was teaching science all day, so he couldn't help me during the day. So I had to end up staying behind most of the time after school, which was fine because I was a geek and I did that anyway. Most days I'd stay behind doing coursework, doing additional studying and stuff anyway, so it didn't matter to me. I was absolutely fine. Actually, it was better because then we could use the workshops and there was nobody else around, no one else kind of getting in the way, didn't have to wait for any of the machines, you know, we could just get on. And actually when it came to things like the finish, doing all the coats, doing all the sanding and then all the coats of cellulose and lacquer, you know, those were quite, probably some quite sort of toxic fumes that we were sort of producing. So sort of putting all that on, applying it, spraying it and everything, of course, like we were wearing masks and stuff, but actually much better that nobody else was around. So actually probably worked out for the best. But yeah, I remember spending so long just, you know, after having kind of basically designed and cut the shape by hand, which I think you can probably tell because there is nothing precise about this. It's meant to be offset, so, you know, I'd sort of designed it with that jag stang look in mind, you know, but I didn't really use it. I didn't use any kind of template. We didn't have the internet then, you know, I couldn't have downloaded a template and drawn around it or anything. It was all done by eye, best guess, and I think I just about got away with it, but it was obviously very, very chunky. I mean, this was the thickness of the actual piece of wood. I'd say that's a good like 2 inches thick, maybe more. And so I had to kind of find a way to reduce some of the bulk, because although it is still very heavy, it was very, very heavy when I first cut this shape out. So I spent a very long time with wood files, trying to kind of take away as much as I could really get away with. I did a lot of the shaping for comfort as well, you know, and kept kind of filing a bit, holding it, feeling kind of, did it feel comfortable, you know, could I get my arm across it here like this, taking away a lot of the wood here, and then kind of ensuring that there were no hard edges, so all the edges are all rounded off as best as I possibly could. Again, I did all of this myself. I did it all by hand. Months and months and months of work. Same with the neck, actually. Like the shaping of the neck was all done by hand, all by eye. Again, you know, nothing was done by kind of machine here, other than like literally cutting the shape of the headstock with the bandsaw, and cutting the neck out of the piece of wood and roughly cutting the thickness. But yeah, the shaping, that was just all done with files, and eventually a lot of sanding, a lot of filling, sanding, and putting the kind of filler cellulose, and then the finish, which is just, I mean, the whole thing is really just a natural finish. I didn't go for any kind of lacquers or any kind of gloss. I really wanted that nice kind of satin finish, which I didn't have on my, you know, obviously my Squire Strat is that kind of, you know, thick polyurethane finish. The neck was, you know, the maple neck had a kind of gloss finish to it, which was really nice, you know, looked really great, but I really liked the feel of the satin finish. Quite a thick neck. This is obviously a much more sturdy guitar than my Squire. I felt that was, you know, something that would give the guitar's tone more depth and more resonance and more sustain. And I kind of made it all to the specifications that I thought would optimize the tone, but also would kind of make it louder, I suppose. So we have 2 single coils, because I did still like the sound of the single coils, but I wanted them to sound richer and have a bit more depth. What I didn't like, what I wasn't a fan of, was the thing that a Strat does, really, which is the twang, you know, that kind of real glassy top end twang, that kind of quacky sound with the bridge pickup. I didn't want a single coil in the bridge, so I went to my local guitar shop, and again, you know, and he knew me. He knew me really well. I used to go in there all the time, try out different guitars. I was the person who went in and tried to play Stairway to Heaven. Really sorry, John. Really sorry about that. Like nearly every week, like every Saturday. You wouldn't believe it. I can't believe he used to let me in. Never used to buy anything other than some picks and maybe a capo or something sometimes. But anyway, I asked him if you know, if I could get hold of some pickups, and you know, I had the Pincott's parts and pickups catalogue, and that's where I got most of the stuff. So I got most of the kind of hardware, so like the bridge, the nut, which is a brass nut here, which I thought was really cool. I didn't want to use bone. I didn't think that would sort of go with the style of the guitar, and I wanted all the kind of hardware to be brass, because I thought that looked really nice with the mahogany. And I went for the sort of amber covers for the pots as well. So I got all those from Pincott's. I got the fret wire as well from Pincott's. But the pickups, I think they had like DiMarzio's, Seymour Duncan's and stuff, which again at that time was kind of out of my price range, really. And so I went into the guitar shop and asked if he had anything, you know, maybe unbranded that I could buy from him, which he did. He sort of went out the back and had a rummage around, and found me these 2 kind of wax dipped single coil pickups and this humbucker, which he didn't really charge me very much for at all. It might have been something like 20 quid for all of them, which was much more kind of within the affordability range for me at that time. And yeah, so I had all my parts, and then kind of assembled it with the help of my science teacher, of course. I think one of the most difficult things was thinking about how to do the truss rod, because with this being a solid mahogany neck, I really didn't know. I couldn't decide how to do it, and he kind of said, look, let's just go for maximum stability to, you know, make sure that this guitar neck is not going to warp or actually ever need any kind of adjustment, which to me sounded an awful lot better than putting in a truss rod that, you know, potentially wouldn't work, or potentially, you know, when it came to try to adjust it, I might damage the neck, because frankly I wouldn't have known what I was doing. So we went for a solid steel truss rod, which was actually it's actually square in cross section, and that was also the easiest thing to route out of the neck. So we routed out the channel, and put it in, and then glued the fretboard on over the top of it. And so it is now just in there forever. And in the 26 years that I've been playing this guitar, the neck has never needed adjusting. There's not ever been an issue with intonation on this guitar. So so he was right, as he was about a lot of things. So yeah, and we got the wood for the fingerboard is actually Iroko, which is the wood that the science desks in school were made from. And there was just, a broken science table down in the workshop. It wasn't being used for anything. It probably wasn't going to be fixed. And so we took a leg off of it and we took a slice off of the leg and used it as the fretboard. It's really, really unusual. It went perfectly with the mahogany. It just blended so well. And the great thing about it, and the reason why Iroko is used for kind of science desks is because it is sort of resistant to acid, alkali. It's not kind of particularly flammable. It's kind of flame retardant. It's basically, you're not going to be able to do anything to really damage this wood. It's very, very hard wearing, and it has been. It is. I mean, all of these things have really been borne out over time. They've really stood the test of time. This fingerboard has had a good deal of use, but also a lot of care and attention. I've oiled it. I've had kind of professional setups in guitar shops. They've dressed the frets. I think it's had a couple of those, and it's just absolutely perfect. It just feels really, really nice to play. It's always felt really good to play. It's really solid. It's very comfortable to hold, and I think it just looks really great. It's so unusual. I think the headstock design, it's not like any other type of guitar. And obviously the shape, the offset kind of shape, was inspired by that Jag stang, but it doesn't really look Fenderish. What I think I've tried to do is combine all of the elements in my mind that I think make a good guitar. So it may have ended up looking to some people a little bit like a confused mishmash of different things without any kind of unifying idea. But actually, to me, I think all of the different elements just came together in a perfect way, and I'm still really, really proud of it to this day. And I will plug it in and give you some tones.